Layoffs are almost background noise, and professionals who spent 20 years building what they thought was a stable career are waking up and asking, what just happened to me?
Forget about stable jobs and career ladders and all these things. These are 20th century artifacts, and they won't apply to the majority of us now. And the faster you can think about how to become self-employed, take care of yourself, or better yet, start a business which grows and provides for other people, the faster you can figure that out, the better. People say, oh, that's really scary. Isn't that too risky? Well, it's far riskier to be in a job where anything can happen. Wake up and try and figure out how you can build something useful.
So if you were a 24-year-old person today with no IIT, no Harvard, would your career that you have built would exactly have been the same way?
No, absolutely not. What I did or the choices I made were in a completely different context, and that world no longer exists for early career people. One of my own important pieces of advice is whatever you find, take it. Don't be picky, choosy, saying, no, I've studied computer science and I need a job that uses my skills and so forth. I said, look, if you don't get anything but an Uber driver job, take it, because you're not going to stay there.
Gen AI, a tool, a threat, or a teacher? Which one is that?
All of the above. It's a tool if you master it and learn to use it and keep moving because it's growing. It's a threat if you're not adapting. The best phrase I've heard is someone talk about it as an alien species that's now here and it's here to stay, and you can't wish it away and send it back to wherever it came from.
Yeah.
So it's a different intelligence and you have to learn to get along.
A 28-year-old person today, 6 a.m. in the morning, he just found out that his job is no more there. What would a 28-year-old sitting in India right now or globally right now understand from Tattvamasi? Hello and welcome to the Career Shifts podcast. Before I bring in my guest today, and trust me, this is a guest worth waiting for, I want to share something that is very personal, something I have never shared in this podcast before. I named my house Tattvamasi. Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. 3 words from the Upanishads. Ancient, deceptively simple, and for me, deeply anchoring. The idea beneath all the roles that we play, the titles, the designations, the business cards, there is something that is just you. Unchangeable, unshakable, you. I named my home that because I needed a daily reminder. Because in the middle of building career shifts, of coaching professionals through their own storms, I sometimes forgot who I was underneath all of that. And today's guest, his favorite motto seems to be Tattvamasi. When I found that out, I knew that this was a conversation that was meant to happen. We live in a world where AI is not just changing jobs, it is dissolving entire categories of work. Geopolitical fractures are redrawing supply chains, investment flows, and career maps. Layoffs are almost background noise, and professionals who spent 20 years building what they thought was a stable career are waking up and asking, what just happened to me? My guest today has spent his life at the intersection of all of this. He led Microsoft India for 8 years. He turned around Bank of Baroda as its chairman. He sat on the Infosys board through one of the most turbulent chapters. He chairs the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. He founded GAIN, the Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship, working to create large-scale employment for India's youth. And through all of that, he has been quietly asking the same question that most of us are afraid to ask aloud. What the heck do I do with my life? I'm honored to welcome Ravi Venkatesan to the Career Shifts podcast. Ravi, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. So Ravi, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking time and also being here with us today. And I wanted to start from typically where you may not have experienced anyone doing this, which is, I've read this about you. Your motto is Tattvamasi.
I don't know where you read all this, but I do believe in it.
Yes. Incidentally, I have named my house as Tatvamasi.
Oh,
And Tatvamasi, as we all know, is you are that. And being a person who has also been to Shabarimala, which of course boasts a lot about Tatvamasi, how you as an individual have to surrender and do things. I want to take a slightly different take on that in terms of a 28-year-old person today listening into this word called Tatvamasi. He just found this out, and 6 a.m. in the morning, he just found out that his job is no more there.
oh, he works at Oracle, is it?
Whoever. So before we talk about Gen AI, Microsoft, and all of these situations that people are going through, what would a 28-year-old sitting in India right now or globally right now understand from Tatvamasi? Or what should he or she understand about Tatvamasi?
When I was 28 years old, I had heard this from my father, but I had not paid any attention to it. And it is the first crisis like this that very often is the impetus to start thinking about the broader reason for your existence.
Yes.
And begin to think about spirituality and all these things. Till that time, you're too busy just accomplishing things. So this hypothetical 28-year-old friend is probably still in a state of shock, grief, anger, anxiety, and not probably paying attention to Tatvamasi. That is something that will unfold hopefully in the coming few months. But if he or she is lucky, they will begin to realize that slowly, and probably won't happen in months or even a year, that everything happens for a reason. And this too is happening for a purpose that will unfold, and they need to discover. And to not be shattered by this, but rather grow from it.
Not be shattered, rather grow from it. Incidentally,
Easy to say, but in that moment, it is right now overwhelming.
yeah, it is. And talking of that, I think would want to dwell on a shift to the whole aspect of Gen AI and the impact of that. I mean, there are so many positive use cases that we are all talking about, which is all that is great. Productivity is improving. People are doing new work, new businesses that never existed before, and all of that. But there is a darker side to it as well, which is affecting people at large, and not so about the skills part, which is you're not getting skilled, and that's why you're no longer going to be in a role, but more so the decisions that corporations are taking of wanting to invest in AI than people. And that is causing a lot of anxiety. Perhaps even to the degree that we can't understand or even comprehend at this point of time. Now, you've been working across with people on the ground, both at the level of junior levels to middle to senior levels as well. What are you hearing? What are you observing? And what should a mid-career or even an early career for that matter, professional try to understand from this? And is the idea of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance clearly here to stay? And if yes, what's the way forward?
So first of all, when any powerful new technology like AI, or before that, computers and the internet, before that, electricity sort of first arrives, there is a shock to the system. And then eventually society, organizations, companies, individuals learn to adapt to that. And then things are usually reasonably fine, except for those who didn't adapt. And the challenge in this case is that the speed with which AI is developing, the speed with which large companies are implementing it, and in some cases carelessly dealing with the people and transition issues, is quite concerning, which is why I strongly believe we need some guardrails in the form of regulations. So yesterday, for instance, in China, somebody got laid off. He went to court, and the court said, no, you cannot lay off people because you're using AI. Very interesting. So I'm not suggesting that's what we need to do here or anywhere else, but I think without guardrails, or that just counting on the good behavior of CEOs and companies is probably quite unrealistic. But then let's focus on what the individual can do. Even before AI came, I wrote this book, What the Heck Do I Do with My Life, in 2021. And that was before ChatGPT and AI and all that. And even there I said, look, forget about stable jobs and career ladders and all these things. These are 20th century artifacts, and they won't apply to the majority of us now. And the faster you can think about how to become self-employed, take care of yourself, as you said, Atmanirbhar, or better yet, start a business which grows and provides for other people, the faster you can figure that out, the better. And people say, oh, that's really scary, and isn't that too risky? And I said at that time, well, it's far riskier to be in a job where anything can happen. And it's 5 years later, it's turned out to be quite prophetic. So yes, whether mid-career, older, younger, my advice is the same. Wake up and try and figure out how you can build something useful using your capabilities and around your passion. So that idea of ikigai, what you're good at, what you love doing, and what the world needs, is what every one of us has to figure out, whether you're 60, 40, or 20.
Very powerfully said. And I'm glad that you brought the reference to the book. And I think it's very important for us to talk about that too, as to if someone were to pick up the book today and read through, who does it really talk to? Is it something that it talks to only people who are in mid-careers or even early careers folks?
Not at all. So in these 5 years, I've heard from readers who are as young as 14. Typically, they're kids of someone who read it and felt it. And as old as 84. No, 92. 92 is the old. It's fairly universal ideas. When I wrote it, I thought my core audience was professionals who are 20 to 65 anywhere in the world. And that's still the core group. But yes, fortunately, I don't think I would revise my views at all. If anything, it's the last 5 years around societal collapse, geopolitical shocks, polarization, extreme weather, and technology have only accelerated all the things that I wrote about. And so I still, not to promote the book or anything, I still would advise your audience to pick it up.
Sure. Now, what we spoke about and all of the aspects like geopolitics, AI, extreme weather, and the ikigai bring in a very unique combination. And the idea of Atmanirbharta again is something that perhaps I keep, going into because I did that last year. I went on my own, started my own journey as a coach, as a professional. Thank you. And I believe very clearly that at the end of the day, we need to be loyal to ourselves and our careers. And I was having a very interesting chat with my 15-year-old son yesterday about how the journey of jobs evolved in India. So from the 1970 or 1947 onwards, till about yesterday. How have people progressed through government jobs, then the Maharatnas and the banks? How it was all about, you join a company and retire from there, be it an automobile, be it a steel company or be it a bank, to what it is for the last 20, 25 years, where people have started exploring a lot many more career avenues given the 1992 globalization or the 2000 internet revolution and so on. Organizations have still not figured out what does it mean to engage with people. And it still thinks very old school that it has to employ people for work. But at the same time, the pressures from the investors, the pressures from the markets always make them think about what do they need to do next to survive and thrive. And which is why I guess, as you beautifully pointed out, decisions which are taken to invest into AI or perhaps even thinking about investing more and letting go of people in lieu of that are happening. So on one hand, you're having people who are thinking about the choices that they need to make and perhaps start becoming more loyal to themselves. On the other hand, organizations at the core level still want to employ people, but at their will. How would the two merge eventually? And where do you see the future of work evolving? Because organization doesn't seem to have understood what talent management is going to be, what talent acquisition is going to be, and all of that. And that's going to be an interesting thing in my view. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that are, for a long time now, more and more employers have been getting more and more transactional. That means you hire, you don't invest, and it's largely the employee's responsibility to learn. At this drop of a hat, people get laid off. Now that's even more true with AI. And Therefore, the employees have also started getting transactional, just looking out for themselves. So for a 5% increase, we've seen that they'll jump ship, and yeah, the loyalty, the levels of commitment that are expected are becoming scarcer.
Yeah.
And I blame employers for starting this transactional trend. That said, I think there are a number of really great companies around which do put employees very much at the center. One of the companies that I work with like this is IKEA. The IKEA Foundation funds a lot of our work. I profoundly respect how they're even managing the AI transition. So I don't think these ideas are old-fashioned. I still think employers that create a high commitment, high performance workplace culture will weather this transition much better. And those like Oracle and Amazon that are way more transactional, they'll be okay for a while, but I don't think the best talent is going to be coming and staying with them. But that's their problem. Let's talk more about the individual. Jack Welch had quite a good book 30 years ago called Control Your Destiny or Somebody Else Will. And I always paid attention to that. So I think the positive thing is every one of us, you, I, your listeners, have to take charge of their responsibility for their own lives and be more intentional about it. And that's the heart of the message in my book, which is live an intentional life. Don't just walk your way through it. If you're going to sleepwalk, chances are you're going to be in a world of trouble very soon. So, yeah, get on with taking charge of your life and make decisions which put you in a better place. But there's no such thing as a career. Okay, the career is something which, as Steve Jobs says, looking back at your life, you can connect the dots. But this idea that I can join an employer and make it my home and climb a ladder and all that is long gone.
Yeah. Interestingly, I had spoken about this in my TEDx last year about how the ladders that existed no longer are there because the walls are no longer there. So what are you climbing on? And instead of creating marble statues, you should think about Lego blocks as your career options. So you build one, you keep changing that, reconfigure and make it better for yourself. It's very interesting times that we are going through. And I want to draw a parallel between your career and the career of someone who's starting their, first role now. When you started your career, for that matter, you probably learned on the job, be it your career at Cummins or Microsoft or even later at Bank of Baroda. You learned by doing and by being in the room. You were allowed to make mistakes. You were allowed to ask questions. And AI today is literally challenging and automating that entire entry-level roles, right? The first rung of leaders, the early leaders that we would call as could be senior executive or assistant managers, whatever name you call them, are all disappearing. So if you are a 24-year-old person today with no IIT, no Harvard, no Cummins to learn, would your career that you have built would exactly have been the same way?
No, absolutely not. It was, I keep saying that what I did or the choices I made were in a completely different context, and that world no longer exists. I've done some talks for early career people, whether coming just on the verge of graduation or just out. And one of my own most important pieces of advice is whatever you find, take it. Okay, don't be picky, choosy, saying no. I've studied computer science and I need a job that uses my skills and so forth. I said, look, if you get don't get anything but an Uber driver job, take it, because you're not going to stay there.
Yeah, good one.
Okay, you're going to just bootstrap your way and get there. Even my first job was actually running lathes in a factory in Pune in 1982, and I was paid 3 rupees a day. And if I missed a day, they cut 3 rupees. I was fine with that because I was looking for experience. I was in the second year of IIT, and I knew this is not something I was going to do forever. But it gave me a lot of experience, and I stood apart from lots of other kids who didn't just enjoy their summer vacations. So that's my point. Look, whatever you have, grab it and bootstrap your way from there. I talked about this guy who's a fellow IIM alum like you, I forget his name, but he ended up taking a job as a security guard in a gated community and then built today what is the most commonly used app. This is the app that we use for receiving packages and parcels in gated communities.
My gate, maybe.
MyGate,
My
exactly.
gate, yeah.
So, yeah, so the point is what you want to do is get real world experiences that help you find your path, and your path better be building something that is useful. That's what I'd get. I think most of us are not going to find a job at HDFC Bank or Infosys and climb up the ladder over 30 years. That's not on the cards.
No, that's a very powerful thing that you're saying, because this is not something that I'll do forever. I mean, I think that's a very powerful statement. People still think careers are forever, which is the whole notion that we should probably break.
Not probably. The faster you dump that outmoded idea, the better off you'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. Ravi, one of the things as I was researching about you, your journey was how you were a Baker Scholar at Harvard, top 5% of your class. Your batchmates went to Wall Street, McKinsey, Goldman Sachs. You went to Cummins instead. Everyone knows about that decision, right? I don't think people will not know about that, but nobody would have thought about the doubt. And in that first week, sitting in the Midwestern town within the organization.
Like I loved manufacturing. Straight out of grad school in engineering, I joined Cummins. Somebody told me, hey, look, you should go to Harvard Business School. I managed to get there. The company was kind enough in those days to pay for it. And I saw no reason to not go back. So it wasn't like I was sitting there, Midwest, saying, oh, shit, I should have joined Goldman Sachs or something. I did have a offer from McKinsey Chicago office, but I didn't take it because I love manufacturing and that's what I wanted to do.
Again, a very powerful thing that how do we know what do we love? Because we are in the race of comparing ourselves with a lot of other people. And I think the advent of social media has just further accentuated the whole thing about, oh, I did not get this offer or I did not get that. And we seldom focus on what is it that we love doing and what is it that we are happy doing. Is there any mantra that you would like to share with people? I know you spoke about Ikigai, but...
No, the mantra is shut down social media, television, and all this junk. That's the mantra. I did that many years ago.
Sure.
And that's the advice in my book. That's the advice I give anybody who listen to it. Even Eric Schmidt, who used to run Google, says social media is an amplifier for idiots. It amplifies your insecurities, your fears, makes you angry, and so forth. It's just completely dangerous, not just a waste of time, it's dangerous. So when you shut down these things and you hang out with people you like and admire and respect, then I think there's a possibility of you being clearer about the path that you should follow. Otherwise, you have all this noise and distractions.
There was a beautiful book written by Christensen Clayton about how do you measure your life, where he had researched so many of the Harvard scholars and graduates about what they did once they came out and where they were. I have, in the last 6 years of my coaching journey, also spoken to a lot of people. In fact, that's what I ended up writing a book as, which is The Other Half of Success.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to come and share this with you. The feeling of emptiness or not knowing what success am I chasing is something that I'm seeing as a common pattern in a lot of these mid-career professionals. We spoke about the social media part, which is there, which is something I think as an advice we should all take. But there is another problem that a lot of these mid-career professionals are struggling with is lack of planning their finances. Everybody is in their jobs because of the fact that they can't get out of mortgage. They just are in a debt trap. Now, I was, again, a conversation that I was having with my son yesterday about financial acumen in schools. It still doesn't exist. And a lot of people don't know what basic finance means. What would your guidance or advice be for mid-career professionals who are stuck and are unable to move out because of this debt trap? And the double whammy would be is if they were to get laid off in a situation like this.
Yeah, look, I think it's common sense. If they acted the way their parents did, they'll be fine. Okay. So my parents, my grandparents grew up with, like most Indians, with very little. And so one of the most important things you did is live within your means. You didn't borrow and spend ahead of your earning capacity. The second thing you would do is save, 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 save. So you'd have a nest egg of savings. In those days, there were fewer instruments, so you would probably put it in a fixed deposit.
Or a PPF.
Yeah, but today you would invest a good amount of it in some sort of SIP in the equities. Yeah, that's what you do. So my father didn't buy his flat till he was 50 because that's when he could begin to think
Of course.
about affording it. I bought mine when I briefly owned a home in the US when I was about 30 to 32, but then I sold that. And then the next time I bought one was when I was 40. Okay. And I didn't need a bank loan by then. So, because I was living within my means. So you look at a lot of successful people. You look at Narayan Murthy, you look at Warren Buffett. Their lifestyle doesn't change with their wealth. My lifestyle hasn't changed greatly over the years. So this is the way we used to live. So I would advise people to just go back to living the way their parents and grandparents did. Now they're going to dismiss me as an old fool, but that's fine.
Well, advices come and it makes sense when the timing is right for them. So I'm hoping that people take the advice.
It usually takes a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
So what will happen is you do all this, and then life will teach you a hard lesson, and hopefully you'll wake up and make some adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah. Ravi, coming back to your career, I think you've made a lot of shifts between Cummins to Microsoft to Bank of Baroda to the board role at Infosys and now Gain. If you think of one decision that has not just been about you, but what it costed your family, what would that be? Like, what was their role in your decisions? And anything that helped them, anything that supported you in that journey?
No, look, I was always extremely lucky that my family supported my taking big challenges which appeared like they could be risky. Whether that was going to the US to study when I had no money and my parents didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Or a decision to come back in '96 when things were going really well. So most parents or families will say, "Oh, why are you going back?" Because India in '96 was not full of opportunities.
Yeah.
Or leaving a nice, secure place like Cummins, where it had been so nice to me, to go into the aggressive culture of Microsoft. Again, potentially risky decision, leaving Microsoft without a job to go try all these things I've tried. My family stood with me, and my family was largely, in the beginning, my parents, and then over time, my wife. So I've been lucky to have the support, because very often you want to do something and then the family says, "What kind of a fool are you? Why are you doing this?" And then you lose courage and conviction and you stay put. It's been a blessing.
I'm glad. I think a lot of people listening would realize that it is not a solo journey any which ways. Family does have a big role to play, and sometimes it's very important to ask the right question. And I mean, for me, it was my wife and my family has been enormously supportive. Never easy to jump without a job or not have a job and start doing something on your own. If not for the conversation that I had about the trust and the belief that they had in me, I don't think this jump would have been possible. But
it's not just the family. I talk about the need for your personal board that also gives you good sound advice and supports you in these transitions, but also make sure you don't do something truly stupid that you'll regret.
Yeah.
So, because when you make these shifts, sometimes you can be foolhardy or just plain unlucky.
Yeah, agree. So I'm going to quickly shift to rapid fire.
Okay.
Quick questions. If there were to be one word that describes your career.
Lucky. Yes. Yeah, a lot of successful people think they're successful because of themselves, their ability, their decisions and choices, their hard work, whatever. All that's true. But I think 95% is
True that. Harvard, IIT, Microsoft, Bank of Baroda, and your favorite motto is three words from that exact 3,000 years old text. Which one actually prepared you the most for life?
all of them. I write and talk a lot about crucible experiences, which are very difficult challenges, would put you outside your comfort zone. And it's like going to a gym and working out seriously. And you grow in your self confidence, you grow in your abilities, you grow in your perspective. So, so life is fundamentally about these transformative, crucible experiences. And IIT was one. I think Microsoft was one. Coming back to India and building Cummins and helping build Cummins in India was another. The BOB was a crucible experience. It taught me a lot. So like that. So it's not one, and you can't compare A versus B versus C. Each of them was very crucial.
Sure. Gen AI, a tool, a threat, or a teacher?
Yes.
Which one is that?
All of the above. It's a tool if you master it and learn to use it and keep moving because it's growing. It's a threat if you're not adapting. Yeah, and the best phrase I've heard is someone talk about it as an alien species that's now here and it's here to stay, and you can't wish it away and send it back to wherever it came from.
Yeah.
So it's a different intelligence and you have to learn to get along.
Well, through that, the biggest lie corporate world told you and that you believed for too long.
Employees are our greatest asset. Customer comes first. Those tend to be nice slogans. Most companies. There are few that live it.
One question which I have is, what is quietly forming right now that you haven't announced to the world as yet?
I'm not going to announce it here. Nice try.
Good try.
There is something exciting that's brewing.
Beautiful. One question I wanted to go back to is the call from Raghuram Rajan about coming to do the role at Bank of Baroda. A lot would have happened, I'm sure. Some of it would be in public domain, some of it would be not in public domain. But what were you personally going through when you were offered that role? What were your thoughts? What were the moments that helped you make the decision?
I was surprised. And I told Raghu I didn't think I was the most qualified person for that. But he asked me very bluntly, do you think you'll do a worse job than those who created this mess? So I said, no. I'd spent 3 or 4 years writing about India, this, that, and the other. And then this opportunity comes. And so here's time to stop talking and start walking. And I said to myself, while I had hesitation about whether I'd succeed, this, that, the other. That was 2015. Yeah, 15. And it was the first Modi government. And at that time, there was still idealism. He was the finance minister. And he genuinely wanted to clean up the banking system. My classmate and friend, Jayan Sinha, was Minister of State for Finance. And Raghu, I knew well, was the RBI governor. So I said, with this dispensation, if we can't make a change, when are we ever going to? So I said, okay, let's put in our best effort and see. I was under no illusions that it would be easy. And I was also under no illusion that I had power and authority. At best, I would be able to leverage the authority that Ministry of Finance has or the regulator RBI has. I had no powers of my own. So I walked in with a reasonable amount of humility. And the rest worked out.
Beautiful. I'm sure. I think some of the experiences happen to us. Some of them we try. And for me personally, that the one of the experiences was going to set up the School of Public Policy at IIM Ahmedabad, which was a turning point in my life, to be very honest. And as I look back, it taught me a lot. It made me realize a lot about what real India and real India's challenges were, and how it is easy for us to sit on this side of the table and keep blaming the world that it's not doing enough. Well, with that, I know. Thank you for your time, Ravi. Really appreciate you sharing your perspectives. Any parting thoughts for people listening in? What should they be for the rest of 2026 and 2027?
Yeah, my parting thought is, look, these are both the best of times and the worst of times. So all this change and volatility creates opportunity if you know how to, if you have the mindset and the skills to take advantage of it. So I wouldn't get all pessimistic and anxious, and
Sure.
most of all, I wouldn't sit around waiting for somebody to come and rescue me. So at the top of my book, I don't know if you can read it,
Yeah.
but there's an endorsement from Bill Gates which says, look, as the world grows in complexity, Ravi's guidance to be curious and adaptable has never been more relevant. So I would say, look, if you're curious and you're adaptable, chances are this is going to be a pretty fun time.
Thank you for joining me on this podcast. I came to this conversation with questions. I'm leaving with something I didn't expect, a deeper sense of what it means to stay grounded when the ground keeps moving. You know, when I named my house Tatvamasi, I did it as a reminder that beneath every career shift, every disruption, every moment of uncertainty, there is still something that is just you. That part doesn't get automated. That part doesn't get laid off. That part doesn't need a new skill set. What Ravi reminded me today is that the question isn't what will I do with when my job disappears. The question is, who am I when the role is gone? And if you can answer that, really answer that, then no career shift, however forced, however sudden, can take you all the way down. Ravi spoke about anxiety. That anxiety is real. That is not the headlines, but in the quiet people's home. And that he also spoke about something I think is the antidote, not a new strategy, not a framework, but a practice of staying curious, staying open, of knowing yourself deeply enough that opportunity can find you even in the middle of disruption. That's what this podcast has always been about. Not just about career shifts, but inner work that makes any shift possible. If today's conversation sparked something in you, a reflection, a question, even a quiet discomfort, sit with it. Because here's what is going to happen when the real shift begins. You're going to find yourself in a much better place. There's much more to come. Until then, stay curious, stay grounded, keep shifting forward and upward. I'm Gopal, and this is the Career Shifts Podcast. See you next time.